So out of the box, the cards will be stacked in a particular order. They'll be ready to go with these booklets. So you open them up and you're like, hey, here's what your deck is supposed to look like. Then we'll start the game. It'll tell us what our opening hand should be. If that's not correct, we can go back and double check that our decks are in the right order. You're playing the Cats deck.
Okay.
So our buddy Johnny is going to be teaching you how to play. I'm playing the Vampires deck. Liliana is teaching me how to play. Liliana's Johnny's a lot more wholesome than Liliana, who's much more of a necromancer. Yeah, so we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
We've got our decks on our library here. This was actually one of the things we learned when we were building everything out for folks to be taught. The natural, a very reasonable thing you might do with a card game is when you're setting your deck down for the first time, you put the deck face up. We're like, oh, your deck's supposed to be face down, and we learned we had to make that very clear in the instructions. Among a lot of the other changes we made when we were building these, having folks play through them, and then seeing what was still unclear.
Yeah. I mean, this looks pretty clear to me. It's like there's an icon on this one. It should be, oh, it's already upside down.
Yeah, that's but that's how
Oh.
I pulled it out of the box. But yes.
Okay. So that should have been Yoshami.
Yes. So we will start with 7 cards.
Okay. Do we have life total?
We do have life totals.
Oh, and you have cat tokens? Oh,
yes,
cute.
The tokens, all of the playmats, and the dice all come in the box. Typically, you would start at 20, but for this first little guided game, we're going to start at 10 life.
Okay. Didn't shuffle. We have the right
Perfect.
cards.
You love to see it. Okay, so it's telling me about my hand and the anatomy of a magic card, and tapping and untapping. And then, in this training game, I will take the first turn. And then in future games, we'll choose randomly who goes first.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because it's my first turn, Liliana's telling me I don't draw a card. She's still pleased with me for going first, though. And I will play my swamp, and I am done.
Okay. So you don't draw a card in your turn, but I do on mine.
Right. The first player doesn't draw a card on their first turn.
Okay. Okay, and it does tell me to cast, so I have to tap that. I play Savannah Lions.
Perfect.
Rules reminder. Okay. So I pass, and it's your turn.
Okay. I'll draw the top card of my deck. I've drawn a swamp. Perfect. I'll play it. And I will cast Vampire Interloper, who has flying and can't block. I've matched my opponent with a creature of my own. But since I can't attack with a creature the same turn enters the battlefield, it is your turn.
Okay. So I untap, draw. Play. Okay. So I play my Leonin Sky Hunter.
Sounds good.
And we're learning about combat. Okay.
Okay.
So I am going to attack with Savannah Lions.
Okay.
It's attacking you.
My Vampire Interloper can't block, so I'll tell you I'm not declaring any blockers.
Okay. So I do 2 damage.
Great. As power 2, I lose 2 life.
Makes sense. And oh yeah, and then it's your turn.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll untap my lands. I'll draw a card. I'll play my another swamp. And now it is my turn to attack. Vampire Interloper is coming in.
Okay. And then I'm gonna block that with Leonin Sky Hunter.
Okay. They each have power 2. They deal 2 damage to each other.
And both of them have less than 2 life. Okay.
I will cast Vampire Spawn. When this creature enters, each opponent loses 2 life, and I gain 2 life. So I got my 2 life back.
Okay. And that will kill my lands. Okay.
I don't advise attacking next turn.
Yeah.
It's true.
We'll see what Johnny tells me to do.
Yes. I would follow Johnny's advice and not mine. Your turn.
Okay. So I untap everything. Definitely want to play one of the many lands I have. Okay. It does tell me to cast Prideful Parent. And I get a 1/1 white cat creature token because it has entered the battlefield.
It's very important to make cat noises whenever you cast such cards.
Meow.
Well done.
It's a bonus creature. It can attack, just not right now. It blocks. Okay. Okay. Ajani agrees with you not to attack. So it is your turn.
Okay. Liana is upset that you have cats everywhere. Draw my card. Alright, I'll cast Highborn Vampire. Liliana also believes I should not attack. She seems to know what she's talking about. Your turn.
Interesting. I don't have any 3 power creatures. Feels like I can't kill your guys and you can kill my guys. That's bad, but okay. Okay. Now that I've got 4 mana, I can play Felidar Savior. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on up to 2 other target creatures you control. And these are all creatures. Okay. Tells me who to choose, even. I guess it makes sense. It's a little baby 1/1. We don't need to make it super strong. I see. Prideful Parent is attacking.
Okay.
And so it doesn't need to tap.
It doesn't need to tap. It has Vigilance.
Yeah.
Delightful. Liliana is not ready to lose any of our creatures just yet. So she wants to take the damage. So now it has 3 power, so I take 3 damage. And then is it my turn?
Yes, after the damage happens.
Okay. I'll untap my lands. Aha. Untamed Hunger. Okay, so I'm going to enchant my Highborn Vampire with Untamed Hunger. Om nom nom. That gives Highborn Vampire +2/+1 in Menace, so you can't block it with less than 2 creatures. So I'll attack you.
So it's a 6/4.
It's a 6/4.
Okay. Ajani thinks this as something not worth blocking.
Okay.
Okay. 2 health left. Cool.
And now it's your turn.
Okay. Johnny, like, come on.
Buddy, are you sure you got this under control here?
Like, oh. Wow, I have drawn the perfect card, it feels like. That seems suspect. It's almost like someone stacked the stack.
You love to see it.
Okay. I'm no longer only I mean, no, I won't tell you about the contents of my hand.
I have a feeling I'm about to find out.
Choose. So I get rid of target creature
Okay,
here.
great.
Wait, it says choose Highborn Vampire. That's Highborn. Okay.
Okay. So you're exiling my highborn vampire.
Okay.
Disaster. He's no longer hungry. He's now in exile. And then my untamed hunger goes to the graveyard.
Okay. I'm glad I listened to Ajani's advice because I saw enchantment and I was like, get rid of the Untamed Hunger.
Oh, sure, sure,
Good.
sure. Yeah, Angelic Edict can do
Um,
creatures
okay.
or.
Yeah, that
Yep.
seems even better. Auras are very. Oh, so that's an enchant.
This was
enchantment aura. Okay. A single spell can remove both creatures that are enchanting it. Okay. Got it. Okay. Cool. I'm going to attack with all three of these.
Okay.
So that's a 3, 2, 3, 3, and 2, 3.
Okay. Prideful Parent doesn't have to attack because it has vigilance.
Oh, right.
These tap. I will block Felidar Savior with Vampire Spawn.
Okay.
And then my vampire is hungry. I will Moment of Craving your Savannah Lions and give it -2/-2 and gain 2 life.
Okay. So it is a 1/0. And
Yes.
then that gets put in the graveyard.
So it'll die. I'll gain 2 life. Then I'll take 3 damage from your Prideful Parent. And then these will do 2 damage to each other, so they'll both live. But this has lifelink, so you gain 2 life.
Okay.
And that is all for combat. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I am done.
Yeah, so here's where the guided part of the game ends, so we can finish out the rest of the game.
Okay.
Liliana is somewhat surprised that I'm still alive and kicking, but she's like, all right, you're fine. And so we can finish playing out here, and then there's more stuff in the box that you can like mix and match. Like you could add pirates to your cats, or add some dragons in there, or something like that.
Interesting. Because this is like a 20 card deck.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a jumpstart line of products for 20 card decks that are themed in some way. So you basically shuffle any 2 of those together, and you have basically a draft deck that has its own themes. So I'll play Blood Tithe Collector. If you had lost life this turn, you would discard a card, but you didn't, so you won't.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Like my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Giselle Goldmane.
Oh, snap.
4/4 with first strike and some ability. You have a 3 damage attacker with flying. That is potentially a problem. I'm also going to pass.
Okay. I'll play Crossway Troublemakers. Attacking vampires I control have Death Touch and Lifelink.
That's not
And then
good.
if a vampire I control dies, I can pay 2 life to draw a card. So I will attack you. It is vampire time. Blood Tithe Collector has flying, so there is no blocking of Blood Tithe Collector unless you're up to something suspicious.
With my 1 card.
Well, I mean, there's
Yeah.
stuff that actually could get me there. And then my Vampire Spawn is attacking. It's a 2/3, but it has Death Touch. So
Which really sucks.
Zoom.
Okay. I have regrets. Does that cost any mana? Having regrets.
Regrets are free.
I'll block with Prideful Parent because I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll block here. So I go down to 1.
Yeah, you'll go to 1.
And then both of these die.
These will die. I gain 5 life because my attacking vampires have lifelink. And then I'll pay 2 life to draw a card because one of my vampires died. Go ahead.
Yes, definitely regrets. Oh,
That's not good.
okay. I play a land. And then enchant your Crossway Troublemakers.
Okay.
And they can't attack or block.
Okay. They're troublemakers, but they're not up to too much trouble.
Wait,
These
if
things
I attach... Oh, yes, right. Okay. So I'm going to attack with all 3 of these.
Okay.
And then pay the 5
Oh, and then you
mana.
activate Giselle Goldman. Okay. So all of your creatures get
+3/+3.
+3/+3. So that's 4, 9, 16 damage.
And this has lifelink
And
as
it has
well.
lifelink. Okay, so I'm dead and you gain some life. Nifty. Okay. I am defeated. Yeah. So that's the beginner box.
Okay.
It has the guided thing for the first few turns, and then yeah, we play after. And then so now we could, or rather, in general, we expect folks to be like, okay, typically after your first game of Magic, you're like, I mostly understand the relationship between lands and spells, and I basically understand combat. But folks can play again with these decks. They can shuffle in one of these jumpstart decks and start going to town on those. Eventually, you can start mixing and matching and
Right.
having a good time with those.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also makes it pretty seamless to be like, oh, I'm like if you played for like an afternoon, you'd sort of get a sense for like all the different combinations in the box, and then maybe like, okay, we want to get some jumpstart packs and see what we open and start adding those in, going through.
Is it the jumpstart pack is essentially the decks that we played with, but a different.
Yeah, so every beginner box has the same jumpstart decks in here.
Okay.
And they're all 20 card half decks. And then Foundation's Jumpstart is you get a random Jumpstart deck. And all of those are also themed in some way, and you can mix and match them. And there's more themes than just in here. And
Right.
And it's a really good way to like one of the other things about Magic is sort of when you are building your first deck, like that can be like pretty overwhelming. And so one of the nice things about Jumpstart is you you just open 2 packs and then you just have a deck.
Right.
And it's a good way to sort of get exposure to sort of a new way to play without having to like go sit down and go through your collection and deal with all that.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like you mentioned you did your first draft deck a few months ago, and it's
Yeah.
like that I would guess that was a little overwhelming.
It took so long.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were it is amazing to me. Like there were 8 to 10 of us.
Sure.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And like 4 of them had played before, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like everyone paired off,
Sure.
help the beginner, like with questions, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't a lot of direction
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
wanted to be fair, but it also meant that it was just like, yeah, I told you. I drafted a deck. I drafted an extremely aggressive red deck, and I didn't have a single 1-drop. So
Sure.
maybe calling it extremely aggressive is a stretch.
Right.
But I had that guy that you flip over the table and then he's like huge.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that was cool. Infinity's fun.
Yeah. Flipping the table is fun. Everyone enjoys a good space carnival. But yeah, like uh, that kind of there's a lot of friction involved in your first draft and getting your first deck set up like that. And so Jumpstart is really clean in terms of like, oh, you just open 2 packs and you have a deck and you're ready to go.
Yeah, this felt like if one of the other newbies was across the table, we would have
Yes.
followed the instructions and we would have gotten to the end and we would have made some attacks and chosen blockers, probably not the ideal setup for it.
Who
And
knows?
then the game would be over. But like with that draft, it was, hey, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Hey, what does this mean? And then we were playing against each other, and that took an extra, 3 hours, and I played 4 games kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah, absolutely.
brutal. And it was like every 5 minutes, someone would be like, hey, I have a question. And like that's with experienced players.
Oh no, I understand.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can definitely see if you're just like, hey, our friend group's heard of this thing. We don't want to like embarrass ourselves asking strangers for stuff. This is a good way to get the beginnings.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the tricky things about learning Magic is it feels weird to sort of ask your opponent for help. So like we have this rules reference guide also comes with the thing. So it's like if you have a rules question or like if you remember like, oh, that Untamed Hunger card was good, but I don't remember what menace actually means, like you can look it up in here. You can look up more about all the different rules and keywords and a little bit about what the colors do and stuff like that. And like these are all built to be relatively straightforward and easier to understand for newer players. Like we've made sets like this in the past in the sense of the idea is like we want more people to play Magic, right? Like Magic is the best game. One of the problems with the products like that we made in the past is there are some cards that are more useful for teaching people Magic than are actually like useful as game pieces for people who have played Magic for hundreds of hours. Like this Highborn Vampire card can be a little bit uninteresting for folks who have played for a really long time, but it's really important. Like when you're learning Magic for the first time, it's like, okay, I pay 4 mana, I get this creature, it has 4 power and 3 toughness, and then maybe later something will happen with it. And so one of the things we've done with Foundations is we've put all the cards that are like useful for teaching new players, but are still like cool and interesting, like Jazal Goldname, who's like a Johnny's brother and stuff like that. Those are all in this box, and then in the play and collector boosters, we just have cards for all Magic players, people who've been playing for months, years, many years in some cases, and those cards are suitable for everybody. Those folks will be delighted to own them. And then all of the stuff that's easier to teach and learn with is in the beginner box. Jumpstart is a little more oriented towards that. We have a starter collection for folks. So like once you decide you're like, oh, I'm a Magic player, I want to build my own decks. Foundations also has a starter collection, so you get that. You get over 350 cards. You get a bunch of lands. It actually comes with a thing like this that does teach you how to build decks. Like here's what the different colors do. Here's how many lands you should put in your deck. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because like I drew this
Right.
and then I sat there and read it,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and it's like, okay, it's a 4 mana 4/4. It has first strike. Those all seem good.
Right.
I don't know if that's really strong, but the effect was like, ah, yes, I am not supposed to block with my little dude. and let them die
Right,
because
right,
I
right.
want to be able to attack, and everyone else gets +1/+1 because this guy's attacking.
Right.
And so like that thought process of this is a teaching card.
Yes.
I have no idea if this card is good. Like
That card's pretty strong, actually.
Okay. But yeah, as a teaching card, it was like, okay, I see where I am supposed to be going.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's good. That's
yeah,
a good thing to know.
no, you're absolutely right. Like a lot of people's like aha moment with Magic is realizing like, oh, the intersection of these cards is like they're greater than the sum of their parts,
Mhm.
and like making those connections um is really what's charming about Magic. And then it's like you start thinking, oh, I could build a deck around that. I want to try that. You play your deck with your friends. You realize other things. You go back and tweak it, and then you're just and now you're a Magic player. And so having cards like they're in that that actually is kind of a philosophy shift from stuff we've done before, where we probably wouldn't have put a card like that in there, especially because the concept of plus X is hard to explain. Um, but we're like, well, this card is sweet, and these are the kinds of realizations we want people to have because that's what's so powerful about Magic. And so we've done more to sort of be like, we have a slightly less we have a higher tolerance for like cards that are a little bit more complicated when they're cool, and when you cast them good things happen. Yeah, so like the other themes in here, you could add healing, or pirates, or wizards, or primal gigantic green creatures if you enjoy woolly mammoths.
Sure.
Anything with large tusks, elves, Inferno, possibly some dragon thing going on here,
That seems reasonable.
and goblins and undead.
So these are all
So these are all in the
color.
box. Yep.
And I'm guessing there's 2 for each, and we just have 2 of them. Yep, that's what it looks like.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and then you can make a monocolor deck or any 2 of them. Again, mix and match, and you can do whatever you want.
Cool.
Dragon pirates, always delightful.
I'm just curious with Foundations. I think it looks fantastic with a good way to jump in. Magic's always been kind of a game with so much history that it's hard to get into it. And just watching you go through the book, I think that shows how good of a job that was doing. Observing. Um, let's see.
I'll figure out how to close this thing.
Oh yeah, these playmats are really nice. They are somewhat of a puzzle.
Oh, they're under here.
Oh yeah,
I was trying to find the cat's deck card.
What is Foundations doing differently? I mean, I kind of had that question ahead of time, and just I think it's already kind of been shown through the video as to teach players how to play.
Yeah, so Foundations it broadly represents sort of the next era of Magic and what that could and ought to be. So a lot of that comes through in the sense of like Magic being for everyone and having something for everyone, right? So in the sense of if you're an existing Magic player already, it's like great. There's play and collector boosters. Open some packs, build some decks, have a good time, draft, whatever. That one of the things about that is for Magic to be for everybody, like we actually need it to be for everybody, including people who don't play Magic yet. And like we were saying earlier, there can be a lot of challenges around having your like learning to play Magic and with your first experience. And so we've done a lot really to sort of be like, okay, if you're a Magic player already, great. We have those packs for you. And then if you're not, or if you want to teach your friend or you bring them to Commander Night or whatever, then we've built a beginner box to sort of help folks get into the game in a sort of less threatening, more charming way, where you come in, you get some cards, you learn to play through the quick start guides, and then you have some stuff you can mix and match with these here to sort of see whatever themes you're interested in, like adding wizards to your cat's deck or whatever else was interesting to you.
Yeah, from like a construction perspective. Look, I have played this game. I am not ready to build a deck. But
Right.
the idea of saying, oh, I can say these, where they go? These have the same color, and therefore they might be good together.
Right.
Or this sounds really cool and I want to play it.
Yeah, Infernal
Like,
Primo.
yeah.
That like I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm excited to find out. Absolutely. Yeah. The ecosystem around foundations for those folks is also different than stuff we've done before. Like we've done Jumpstart in the past, but sort of put it out on its own island where like Jumpstart is fun. Like opening 2 packs and playing a game of Magic is like the perfect way to play over lunch or with your buddy, or like when you don't have 3 hours to draft and play and so on. You want to just get some packs and get going with some new deck you've never played before. Jumpstart's perfect for that. But one of the things we've done here is sort of like the themes that you can find in Jumpstart sort of bridge pretty elegantly into the rest of the foundation set. So it's like if you open something around like, oh, when I'm gaining life, good things happen. Like there's cards like that in the main set too, and there's cards like that in the starter collection, and you can sort of start building your own deck and get positioned for whatever whatever thing you're excited about with your Jumpstart decks and sort of the things that are catching your eye. There's more of whatever that is in the Foundation's main set.
Yeah, we have several friends that we've taught Magic through Jumpstart, and
Right.
get this integration. I think will just make that even smoother.
Yeah.
Kind of just curious for Magic players are kind of famous for being curmudgeons, let's say, in some ways. I don't know. Everyone's different, but I've heard, with the product got announced, a lot of people were like, oh, they're just bringing it back to core set.
Yeah.
Or I can already see the differences. But what would you say to someone that said, no, this is not just the return of a core set?
Yeah, I mean, so it's true that we've taken a lot of swings at making sets for new players in the past. Like core sets were extremely focused on exclusively the new player. And Foundations like really was built for everybody. But a lot of how that actually manifests is one of the things people didn't like about core sets is the way the core sets were built. The cards for teaching new players were in everything. So like you would open packs of the main set that you're trying to draft with, and you would get a lot of cards where it's like, this would be useful for teaching my friend, but it's not that interesting for me to draft with for the 10th time. And so with Foundations, we've taken the cards that are good for teaching people, and we've put those in the products that we're teaching people with, like the beginner box. But then in the main set, like the cards are cool and charming, and it's sort of like the thing that is useful about those core sets is that the cards have kind of like clean fantasy resonance, like cool angels and cool dragons and stuff like that. All of those cards are in Foundations, but like those cards are just sweet and like they're good for any Magic player. And so the cards that are just fun and charming and delightful and everyone wants to play with them, like those are in the main set. And then the cards that are useful for teaching people and sort of onboarding them into their first game or whatever, but that aren't going to be exciting game pieces for someone on their 20th, 200th, whatever hour. Those cards are in the beginner box. And then you only like you can play with the cards that are right for you.
Oh, I mean, one of the first cards you flipped was a Savannah Lions. And
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
that
Savannah
made
Lions
me
is back.
smile. You may have no idea why. That's
Nope.
fine. But I was like, oh, Savannah Lions. Oh, that makes me happy. Would would you say like a good next step might be to like draft with like are there play boosters?
There are play boosters with Foundations. Yeah, you
Pretty
could
sure.
you could draft next. So a lot of one of the other things that's really complicated about Magic and sort of new players coming into Magic, they're wondering what to do next. It depends a lot on who they're playing with, right? So if what's happened is like your friends are like, hey, we have Commander Night, and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm interested. I heard about this Foundations thing. I heard about some other Magic set I'm interested in. It's like great. The beginner box probably is the best way to sort of learn to play through the actual rules and stuff like that. But then like the thing to do after is whatever you're doing with your friends, because like whatever you're doing with your friends is going to be more fun than whatever sort of the theoretically best way to do stuff is. So if your friends are drafting, you could draft. As we were talking earlier,
Yeah.
that has its own challenges and complexities, but you also have your friends there to guide you through it. Like Commander's the same way. Plenty of people are like, "Hey, come to Commander Night. We'll teach you how to play," and that can be like Commander's a lot, but
Can be.
when you're playing multiplayer with your friends, like people often will leave you alone for a few turns. It's much less competitive, and so people tend to be a lot more willing to ask questions. Jumpstart is a really good way. Like I would, I think if I were teaching a friend of mine after we had gone through the beginner box, rather than being like, hey, let's do a draft. Like the thing that's cool about a draft is you're playing with a deck you've never played before. But one of the fun elements of that is you're building the deck on the fly. And for people who are that new to Magic, like building a deck on the fly is can be more stressful than fun pretty easily. And so with Jumpstart, you get all the experience of like, hey, I'm playing with a new deck I've never played before, but building the deck is much less stressful because you just open the packs and you're good to go. And also, it takes a lot less time, and so that can also be really, really convenient.
Yeah, I think approachability
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
important, and the ability to say, yeah, I'm just opening some stuff and putting it on the table and we're playing, that is appealing to many people.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that you're thinking about that and trying to get the beginners in while also catering to the folks that want to sit there and really get into the crunch.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the things. We're at Gen Con, and there's tons of new games to try out or whatever, and a big part of that is sort of how quickly can you set something up, play it, and take something down, and being able to go through stuff and have a new deck, have a new experience, and go through that pretty quickly. Really is a blessing. Like it just fits into your schedule a lot more cleanly, and that makes it a lot more convenient, and that makes it a lot more fun.
I'm just looking at these 10 themes, and with a little bit of experience, I feel like I would feel comfortable mixing and matching like colors
Mm-hmm.
pretty quickly.
For sure.
How, since we haven't gone through the whole box, are there things in there that say like, here's how you can mix and match in a fun way and not just, cheat?
Yeah, well, so I mean,
Unknowingly,
it's pretty tough to like. You could shuffle 3 of these together, and you could have a 60 card deck. There's the Magic Police aren't going to stop you. The main reason you might not want to do that is your 3-color deck. It can be pretty challenging to get the color of mana you need when you need it.
Sure.
So in general for Jumpstart, any 2 packs make a 40-card deck, and then the lands are in the Jumpstart pack, so it's like pretty balanced naturally. At the end of the quick start guides, it's like, hey, play your next game, and then again, you can mix and match any of these. There's a little bit in here about sort of what all the different colors are and do, and red in a nutshell of like, hey, play aggressive creatures and burn your opponents to death, or white is like, play lots of creatures and go wide and buff them. Blue is like, be tricksy.
That's really cool. I like the art is nice and gets you interested in looking.
Yeah, Magic's art is gorgeous. It is the best by far.
I know that Foundations will be standard legal for what, 5 years minimum?
Yeah, so we're saying it's semi indefinitely. Like we want these like we do see Foundations as sort of like the building blocks of the next era of Magic. That means that we are excited for it to be around in these tournament environments for like kind of the foreseeable future. If we say they're legal forever, we're very confident we'll regret that at some point. And so we're like, we think there's gonna be legal for a long time. We're committing to having them legal through 2029. Probably they'll be legal beyond that. But we'll sort of make those determinations as we get up on those years. Like we'll announce years in advance when we decide like, hey, in this year, Foundations will rotate out of standard at the end of that year. A lot of that is basically like we've built this with our best understanding of like Magic design and what makes Magic fun and what people are looking for out of Magic. Years from now, people might be looking for different things, right? Like gaming has expanded tremendously over the last several years, and that's great. And a lot of new people are coming into games, and those people tend to want, or rather, for folks who want some kind of strategic oriented game and they're excited about finding new ways to sort of find themselves in deck building, or they want to build decks around their favorite pieces of art and stuff like that. That's what Foundations is sort of built for and reflects. Years from now, people might be looking for different things, and so maybe at that point we would build some other set like Foundations that sort of reflects the needs at the time and then the stuff we've learned in the intervening years. But right now, we think Foundations is the best. We're very excited to bring Ajani and Liliana and all of our other characters to everyone.
Normal rotation's only 3 years anyway,
Right,
so
right.
it's far exceeding that.
Yeah.
I was just curious how that they were like 5 years, and that's a long time.
Yeah. But we're pretty excited. Like we brought a bunch of cards back. So
Is that the Savannah Lions? Okay.
yeah, Savannah Lions is exciting. But like there's cards. Llanowar Elves is going to be back. Llanowar Elves is a famous card from the original printings in Alpha.
Okay.
It's a powerful mana elf that has been pretty iconic for over 30 years. Day of Judgment's coming back. 4 mana destroy all creatures is like pretty serious business. And like having cards like those that people know and are familiar with, and having those be a cornerstone of standard for the next several years is something we're pretty excited about.
Just about out of time.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what time it is.
No,
I,
I assume you guys have a 10 o'clock. Just want to say thank you.
Oh
you
yeah,
for your time.
absolutely. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you for running me through that.